If you'd been a fly on the wall during that advert break and seen the conversation that just happened between the wonderful Thomas Godfrey, news reporter at The Sun, responsible for this absolutely staggering front page, and I, what you have heard is me basically just make a series of funny clicks and sounds like I was from the Xhosa tribe of South Africa. I was just going... because words fail me, Thomas, with this story. I mean, look, they're failing me again. What?
I mean, it's worth laying it out. It's the taxpayer funds from a Home Office contract are being used to hire people who can teach balloon craft in immigration removal centres.
Removal centres?
Yeah, the key word is removal centres. A lot of these people are either awaiting deportation or having their immigration status resolved. They are, in effect, many of them, on the way out of the country. Their asylum claim has been rejected, or they're a foreign national offender who's waiting to be flown home.
You just gave me a statistic then, before we came back, about the proportion of these people who are actually coming from prison.
Well, it's two-thirds at Harmondsworth, which is one of the two sites at Heathrow. Two-thirds of arrivals at Harmondsworth, a report last year found, had come directly from prison. So they were foreign offenders who were deported at the end of their term. They arrived from prison into Harmondsworth and seemingly are going to be given lessons on floristry, painting, decorating, hairdressing, and have someone running around doing gym classes for them, all for 40 grand a year, which is a decent salary, actually. Maybe not for London, but a decent salary. It's worth noting the Home Office have asked these jobs be taken down. They say they were not necessary in the first place, but that is the question. Why were these jobs actually allowed to be offered? Why were they fielding applicants?
In what psychotic, sociopathic, deranged, destabilised country are we deporting dangerous foreign criminals, and then somebody somewhere is sitting in some meeting going, let's teach them how to make balloon animals?
Yeah, I mean, it beggars belief, really. The combined paycheck for every year, but taxpayers are on the hook for, the combined paycheck for these 4 roles, plus a vocational skills tutor, also on 31 grand a year, is over £165,000. Now, I think both of us could do better with £165,000 of taxpayer money than employing absolutely nonsense roles like this.
For me, the most concerning aspect, whether this costs 1 pence or £1 million, is the psychology behind it. It is the fact that there's a human being out there, or a collection of human beings out there, who think that this is what ought to be done. It is the principle, it's the rationale, it's the fact that these human beings have got into these positions of power, they have significant amounts of responsibility, and quite frankly, I wouldn't trust them to be mentally stable enough to be a dog walker.
You'd love to be a fly on the wall in the meetings where they go down this big list of recreation ideas, of ideas to give these people something to do while they wait in immigration detention. And by the way, the average wait time in immigration detention is a month. So these people are not there for, let's say, years at a time. It's meant to be a short-term holding centre. Now, actually, what happens at these centres is because the deportation flights don't get sorted in time, a lot of people in immigration removal centres end up being released back into the community.
I would love to go and see a deportation centre in Dubai. I'd love to go and see a deportation centre in Indonesia. I'd love to go and see a deportation centre in almost any other country in the world and see the sort of conditions that those people are in compared to this absolute madness.
Some of the job readings genuinely appear like they're asking for secondary school teachers, not for people to deal with, in many cases, dangerous foreign criminals. I mean, for example, one I can read out, a creatively minded painting tutor will lead, quote, paint parties at the centre. They are asked to create, quote, a stimulating, supportive and productive environment for residents that encourages residents, not detainees. Residents that encourages them to attend and enables them to learn and develop their skills.
Their skills at what? Becoming the next Bob Hope? I need to... Thomas, you do such sterling work, but you're going to be the death of me, sunshine. You make another front page like this and my brains are going to be splattered all over the 4 walls of this studio. On the subject of asylum seekers, it turns out that the Home Office thinks that their rights outweigh ours. Of course they do. And this has caused, as you could imagine, a fair amount of consternation down in Epping Forest. Some would say the nexus of the fight back against asylum hotels. Last night there were clashes between police and protesters. It got very hot under the collar indeed. Let's speak now to Sarah White, who's an Epping mum and a campaigner. Welcome on board HMS Let's Try and Stay Sane Together, Sarah.
Morning, Alex.
Were you there last night?
Yes, I was.
What unfolded? Tell us from the horse's mouth.
Right, so thankfully it didn't turn aggressive or violent, but it is at the tipping point now. And, you know, so what happened was all of the women met first of all, and then all the men come along and marched up the high street and come towards where the Bell Hotel is. And then the police kind of got at loggerheads with all the men. And it got very heated because tensions are running high in Epping and we just feel incredibly let down.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And of course, the government are quaking in their boots because they think if you get your way, then this is going to set a precedent or a blueprint for other people to try and get their own way up and down the country. And they don't have any solutions of where to put these men, other than, it seems to me, they want to stick them in private accommodation. Private rental accommodation. Now, we were talking earlier about a particular company who are running a deportation centre. Somebody has sent to me via email a call out from another company in charge of sourcing HMOs, houses of multiple occupancy in the private sector. And it lists a traffic light system of which parts of the country they're actively seeking to find houses to put these people in. And I'm sure you'll be less than delighted to know, Sarah, that a green traffic light, oh yes, we want private rental accommodation here to put these young men, is in Epping Forest. How would you feel once the Bell Hotel is closed down, if they do succeed, that actually what happens is some of those residents end up living next door to you or over the road?
Well, I'd be completely outraged, and that is the concern in Epping. We have understood since we've been protesting that obviously, once we achieve what we want to achieve, or hopefully, the Bell Hotel will be closed. And our concern is that all of these men will be dispersed within our community. And like you said, could be next door to me, could be next door to anyone. And that is totally unacceptable. It was quite easy during COVID for the government to build the Nightingale Clinic. Why isn't it not acceptable for places to be built that are out of anyone's communities, a detention centre? Because let's remember, these men have broken into our country illegally. Yep. I can't break into somebody's home and just be allowed to still roam the streets. Right. It is unacceptable, and our government is letting us down.
You make such a good point, because after the Second World War, where we had bona fide refugees from other countries in Europe who largely share our religion and our culture and our mores, they were made to stay for months, if not years, in makeshift refugee camps before they were able to settle in. And they were here more than legally. We invited them over, and rightly so. And actually, if you look at parts of the world where the majority of refugees are put up in camps, places like Syria, I'll tell you something for free, Sarah, their winters are a lot harsher than ours. Their summers are a lot hotter than ours. The standards of sanitation in those refugee camps are probably going to be a lot worse than anything we would offer. And I don't understand why, quite rightly as you say, when it was good enough for the British people who might be nearing the end of their mortal coil from an unknown virus to be putting camp beds in these massive built-for-purpose units called Nightingale hospitals, which sprung up seemingly in a matter of moments, why these men illegally breaking into the country on dinghies who've been living in bin-bag bivouacs in the sand dunes of Calais are worthy instead of boutique hotels.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. And, you know, I wonder how Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper would feel if they had these so-called illegal migrants, undocumented men living next door to them. How safe would they feel for their wives and their children?
I would. I've just bought my first house. It turns out there's a flat next door to my house which is for sale. Now, I think where I've moved to in God's own county of Gloucestershire, my specific part of the sticks is probably inoculated from having a wild-eyed so-called refugee turn up and live next door. But if they did, that would ruin... My house would be unsellable. I would feel unsafe. I wouldn't want to live there. the price of my property that I've only just managed to scrape together to buy at the age of 41 would plummet. The whole community would feel unsafe. The sanctuary that I feel when I leave London and go there would be totally destroyed. And my heart, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen to me, but my heart desperately goes out to anybody who wakes up one morning and suddenly finds a load of unknown men who have had, and this is the thing, right? This is the thing. All these people going, oh, the poor things, they need to learn to make balloon animals. They're racists because they see people from other countries and go, they're victims, they're weak, they're incapable. I'm sorry, these men are physically fit enough to cross continents. They're savvy enough to do deals with international human traffickers and somehow get hold of thousands of pounds. They're hardy enough to be able to live in makeshift encampments in Calais. In what world are these people poor and vulnerable and so desperately in need of our help? They're just not. It doesn't add up, does it?
No, it doesn't add up. And I think what the government need to remember is they are here to serve the liberty of the people within Great Britain who have been born and bred here, who have got good morals and good work ethic. And the government need to be very careful what they wish for, because the people of Epping have had enough, and dependent on today's verdict will depend on how we react.
Oh, Sarah, the people of Epping have had enough, and the people of Epping are all of us. Hashtag I am Epping. Thank you ever so much for coming on. Thomas, I'm going to throw this back to you. Where's Sir Keir Starmer? While Rome is burning. He's not very good at speaking to us unless there was far-right thugs coming out of his mouth.
That's a very good point, and the Home Office is doing currently a great deal of its public relations through lawyers at the Court of Appeal over the last couple of days. It's a very good question, and I think the point has just been made about dispersal accommodation, that the asylum hotel bill by itself is £3.1 billion a year. Even if dispersed accommodation knocks a third off that, I mean, you're still looking at more than £2 billion a year. A lot of people look at that and still say, well, that's still £2 billion too much. It's still a colossal waste of money, a misallocation of taxpayer funds at a much grander scale than 30 grand on a balloon tutor is.
My concern is not just economic when it comes to this. If we're worried about the nature of these men, the sort of morals that they may have in their home countries and what sort of attitudes towards women they're bringing over here, if we are so concerned about the threat posed to girls based upon where this all kicked off in Epping, a migrant man approaching 14-year-old girls and touching them up and saying, I want to make babies with you. What on earth is going to go on when these people are in private accommodation where they can say, come back to my house, there's no eyes on? I hate these hotels, but it'd be hard for them to take a schoolgirl across the threshold and take her into their bedroom.
Yeah, and I mean, already there's multiple modes of accommodation that have been tried. RAF Wethersfield, for example, converted into asylum accommodation, and that caused a lot of outrage from military families that were being kicked off that base, removed from their very dilapidated homes, because the upkeep of military homes in this country is another talking point entirely, especially on bases where they just fall into disrepair. However, that was when they were removed, that base was refurbished for asylum seekers to move into. You're right. I mean, we did an investigation earlier this year that found that more than 300 migrants had been charged at hotels across the country with criminal offences and had appeared in court to that end.
And they're in hotels where there are people on the reception desk, where there are people who they clearly don't monitor whether they're working for Deliveroo or not.
No, they don't.
At least there's eyes on. What on earth? What's it going to look like when they're in private houses?
There are security teams at these hotels. In theory, yeah. There is a threshold. There is a physical barrier to committing crimes within the perimeter of the hotel. The point you made about house prices. Cast your mind back to the demonstrations at the Thistle Barbican in central London, in Islington. It was the hotel where we revealed how there were dozens of e-bikes outside with Deliveroo bags, people cycling off, collecting orders, delivering them, going home at night. I went and spoke to some of the residents who live around that hotel a while ago, and they all told me the same thing, which was that they could not sell their flats. Yeah. The value of their flats had gone down. There was one man I spoke to who had just had a newborn child who he was been trying to sell the flat for over a year and just simply wasn't able to, on the basis that prospective buyers would come and have a look. They'd see there was a migrant hotel next door and immediately demand money off. He's actually taken the flat off the market because he just feels it's too much hassle to want to move out. The same in Bournemouth. my hometown, as a matter of fact, the same in Bournemouth, where there are 3 migrant hotels, including one with rooms overlooking the sea. Very posh block of apartments opposite that, the sort of place anyone would want to live, overlooking the sea on the south coast. Again, they feel their house prices have been decimated by the presence of an asylum hotel. And if suddenly the 200 hotels or so becomes, let's say, 600, 700 houses, it will be more than that, of course, but just a number, then suddenly that same problem is going to apply, in theory, to potentially thousands of homes.
Plus Bournemouth Beach is becoming a public latrine. Thomas, thank you ever so much. Your work is absolutely sterling, but like I said, you're probably going to lead to my final demise with your excellence finding out of these absolutely breathtaking stories. Thomas Godfrey, ladies and gentlemen, news reporter at The Sun, responsible for this utterly, utterly astonishing front page. Brilliant journalism. Journalism at its best.